thank you so much, everyone, for seeing me off like this. What can I say about this job? You know, it has not been good.
Adult animation is more popular than ever.
Animation just offers more in a lot of ways than live action can.
Oh, shit.
And it's like so exciting to work in a medium where the strangest things can happen on the screen. I've been attracted for a long time to comedy that combines like deep human darkness with fantastical elements. So Gary and His Demons is about a demon hunter who's 45 years old, and he's the chosen one. But he was chosen when he was 15, but we don't see him when he was 15. We pick it up when he's 45. He was supposed to retire at 30. They couldn't find a replacement. He was supposed to retire at 45. They couldn't find a replacement. So he's this depressed, angry, bad man who is forced to keep doing a teenager's job.
So his dream of moving to the suburbs, starting a family, is now off the table.
One thing that is very unique about Gary and His Demons is that it pulls off something that has historically been very difficult, and that's combining the spontaneous art of improvisation with the traditionally very time-intensive tradition of animation.
You heard all of that, huh?
Normally, these two things don't mix, but Mark Little, who's a hilarious stand-up comic and improviser, has really cracked the code on how to combine these two things, and it's really something different. It's really something very special.
People ask me, did I get bullied a lot in school? And the answer is yes. But the weird thing is that I was homeschooled. So
My career, as it were, started in high school. There was a national organization called the Canadian Improv Games. It was very big in certain schools and very small in my school. After I finished high school, I joined up with that organization as a volunteer, and everything's been sort of rolling since then, I guess. So I wanted to make sure that if there were different avenues available within comedy, I would just pursue them all and figure it out as I went. Josh reached out to me. He was making a bunch of short animated series, and so he just asked me to pitch some ideas, and I was like, ugh, whatever.
I approached Mark Little, who's the creator behind the show, and I said, pitch me just a bunch of ideas. I said, I don't want more than a couple sentences.
Honestly, I just spent an afternoon coming up with crap, just being like, what about this, what about this, what about this, what about this? And then he was like, this demon idea is interesting.
So he pitched about 10 concepts. They were all a lot of fun.
And then the more I forced myself to explore why that idea had just sprung to mind, the more I got into it. And that's sort of it.
And we made the demo, partnered Mark with Lou Solis, who's the animation company behind it, and the rest is sort of history. Okay, so what do we know about Gary? We know that Gary is 40-something-year-old demon slayer, okay? So what's like something fun we could do for the cold open?
I think that like the best way for us to tackle it, we can't give them the exact lines to say because we know they're going to find it themselves anyways. We just got to give them the best scenes that they can do and they can improvise on those scenes because that's what we're getting them in for anyways.
The scripts are definitely a starting point. When I put something in a script, I'm going to try my best to make it good jokes. I always want people to work outside of the lines because at the bare minimum, I know that I'm probably not writing in their perfect cadence, and I want them to remember the version of themselves that makes people laugh when they're just being funny. I want stuff to feel like it's being made up. And so I'm always encouraging people to like, just get off the script and get ahead of your own brain if you can, because then you'll find that place where you're like stammering or like coming up with a joke or trying to, and it sort of halfway comes out.
I don't know if I'm getting that right.
I don't know.
That is. I like it.
I don't mind being scary.
Yeah.
It becomes so great because if you just throw some shit out there, then the other people can react to that. And if it's funny people, then you can trust that that'll probably be funny. And in the case of my scripts, certainly funnier than what I've got there.
Oh boy, just got this new waist trainer and I can't, Gary, like you can't just summon me like this. What if Jeff saw?
Adult animation is more popular than ever. If you look on streaming platforms at the most popular shows, half of the shows in the top 10 on Hulu are animated shows.
There was a lot of controversy that was being created by that. The motion picture producers got together and they said, okay, we need to like put something in place. And the government was talking to them, and all the states were talking about imposing all these bans. And so what they implemented was a thing called the Hays Code. These different organizations across the US were saying, okay, we're gonna implement a policy of none of these films being put out, or we're gonna do individual policies. And so the motion picture producers were faced with this conflict because if they produce a film, they want to have it in as many different areas as possible to be seen, because that's how you make the most amount of money. And if you have to take a film and you have to navigate all the different restrictions of like 100 different territories, it's impossible. It's not going to happen. At that point, adult animation ended.
Adult animation is animation that it's sort of its own category. It doesn't necessarily have to be the grimy, bouncy boobies animation from the heavy metal days. It can be anything that an adult would respond to. It doesn't have to be comedy. It can be a serious drama.
Adult animation came back onto the forefront with the Flintstones, which is in the 60s. The Flintstones is considered adult animation because you have scenes such as the two adult characters, Fred and Wilma, sleeping in the same bed together.
But it really took off with kids. It didn't really have a huge adult following. The Simpsons was probably the first show that really had something that adults could really chew on.
They were saying things that other people weren't saying, and they were saying it really, really well.
Now with the media platform is like spread out as is, there's more content available. Now I think that you have to, by necessity, just make something different just in order to stand out.
I would say that it's still really, really hard to have a high-quality animated adult series that is a hit. So you look at Gary and his Demons, and you look at Gary and the actor that's doing his voice, and if you listen to that voice, you know it's a hit.
Oh my God. No, sorry, no, this is going really well. I'm just gonna take notes on how well you're doing.
And the series is being improvised, and I'd say that's probably one of the best ways to get really, truly authentic and unique content out of an actor.
Sweet, yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Who is this?
We don't know this man. No, I'm just kidding. We're doing a mini documentary.
Porn?
So as a voice director, I come in with my 2 scripts for the day that we're going to record, and they're fully prepped. I've got everything highlighted, little notes on every line. Everything's pretty ready to go if it were a show where we kept to the script.
Well, then I think I got a plan, and I know you're gonna like it.
When we have to go back to these, days later to try and edit the show and find the best moments and find the best jokes, we have to be able to find those. So we're trying to keep track of which improv was where, what take had what line that we like, et cetera, because that's all part of the, what creates the great nature of the show. Emma, I loved that you added the confidence to 40 and 43 there, that her self-assuredness. It just came out a little bit fast, so I think you could give it a little bit more time to be the cool one in this situation.
Sorry, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I definitely feel for Lee sometimes when he's got a job to direct our voices and we start just completely going off script. He's very generous because he also accepts that I'm just gonna start directing at certain points and it's not appropriate.
Actually, you know what, for 43, maybe give me something like, yeah, I'm sort of numb to it, but...
The mirror thing?
Yeah, I'm sort of numb to it at this point, but it's bad. Or,
Is that long, though?
I want people to surprise themselves when they're doing voices. I want to hear mistakes. Sometimes I'll script in, try to come up with a joke here. What I mean is, I want to hear the effort. I don't want this to be seamless. I think Lee totally gets that, and he loves that too, and we all do. Everyone loves the moments where you hear people struggling.
Hey, is this Sparkle Latte 22?
Yeah? How do you know about that?
I kill preteen girls. I see a lot of this stuff.
It's a little bit hectic on my notes page and stuff like that, but it's all an important part of the process. I mean, I could just go, there's like only a few specific lines that I need to get. I think we've got a decent amount of time if Marky wanted to jump into another full pass, but I don't think we need it. Do you want to go into a couple specifics?
I wouldn't mind one more full pass, but
Sure.
give us the specifics.
Once that voiceover process is done, we have all our notes, we have the, hopefully everything recorded if we haven't messed up. We have to go back through all of that dialogue that was edited that day, go through the recording sessions, see which takes were our favorite, start to piece it all together. It becomes a real big puzzle.
So after the voice record, the audio file stays with Lee, and he will do a nat pause.
Nat pause is a bit of an industry term, it's not the most useful term, but I think it's natural pause. In a normal show, without improvisation, you would have each line that you recorded that day, which oftentimes wouldn't even be, recorded with the actors in the same booth. These are recorded at different times, maybe even different cities, who knows. You take them, you put them together with a certain pause in between each line, and that allows the storyboard editor to then take those and they can make the pacing of the dialogue go however they see fit. For us, we don't actually build in those pauses for the storyboard editor. I do the timing of the dialogue myself because a lot of the dialogue is overlapped. We have a lot of actors in at the same time, and they are guiding what the timing of the jokes and what the timing of the dialogue should be. So we don't mess with that timing as much as you would on another show.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, you just sort of make it up every time, huh? Hoping that that'll compensate for not having written jokes. That's interesting. That way you don't need to be a good comedian. You can just sort of talk around a thing and hope that quantity of words makes up for quality. Welcome to the Fun Zone!
It's a toy store.
A toy store run by a trickster T-Man. I busted him for trapping humans in his deadly games a while back, and now he's my informant.
It's weird to see something I came up with come to life in an animated form. It's funny to see how the animators interpret what a voice should look like. And it's like so exciting to work in a medium where like anything can happen.
We get about 2 weeks to do a rough pass of the storyboard. After that, there are going to be maybe 2 more weeks to sort of really lock that down.
Once we get the audio for the show, we usually turn around picture in about 5 weeks.
And then another week for compositing.
So it's a very tight process, and we're able to do that because we're small and everyone knows each other very well, and we're all pros.
Unlike a lot of other shows that have sort of like a locked radio play already that's passed along to the storyboard artists, for us, a lot can change from the script stage to when we give it to our storyboard artists. And even after the storyboard is done, there might be a lot of other changes that need to be made, and we try our best to work on the fly that way.
In Gary and the Demons, we have a lot of different characters. Each of the animators here has a primary character they're working with. It's very rare in this industry to have this kind of thing.
Having one artist do one character, it creates like continuity. We try to assign particular characters to particular artists who hopefully try to match the same characteristics that character might have.
I'm working on Grundleman, who's our main villain for episode 2. So when I start a scene, I'll listen to the dialogue, and I will act it out myself at the table. And generally, I'm not doing like the huge big things, but I'll be like, he's like, oh, Bloody Mary, I didn't see you there.
Bloody Mary, hi. You look well.
Like, I'll be doing it a bit smaller, but I'm definitely doing the motions and getting a feel for how I would do it if I was in this situation. Like, these are moments that you have to sell it, so you have to know how people would act in those kind of situations.
Well, the way Gary moves, we try to base it on Mark Little.
Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary.
The voice is incredibly particular and very unique. It was very clear to me like what he looked like and how he moved and what he would do in any given situation.
God gave you 2 legs, better use them, girl.
Gary's pretty much how I imagined him. But we went back and forth a lot on like bald here, hair here, glasses, mustache, hunch, gangly. Just a lot of adjectives of how I imagine myself as an old man.
Or you can eat my ass. How does that sound, Les? Does that do anything for you?
So each episode is 11 minutes. They don't come to us as 11 minutes. They'll come in as 12 minutes, and Lou and I will have to figure out a way to get it down to 11 minutes. For some episodes, 250, some 350 shots, depending how quick the cuts are, how long they are. It's a lot of work. This is the animatic that the very talented Sean Janice has put together for us. He's basically like the first level director. So based on the audio, he will draw out the characters, write in little visual jokes, which are a lot of times hilarious. And then he'll show it to Lou, and then Lou will give him notes, and he will adjust accordingly. At which point, I will take these scenes and put them into the edit, and then Lou and I, it's like Lou and I and everybody else, will sit down and watch the edit, and together we will all come up with ways to make things stronger, cut things out as needed, and so forth.
This show is fairly different than what we've done because of that improv element and the amount of input that we've been able to have. This show, what really makes it special, I think, is the delivery, and it's the funny, ums and ers that happen during a delivery of a line.
By a demon. That'll be more of a low light. Yeah, fuck it.
An impromptu song that Mark would do. These are all the great things that make Gary special and different than any show that I've worked on.
Hey, fellas. You know what I like about social media? Not homework.
Jesus.
In the animation, we also really try to capture that, make sure the characters seem like they're thinking, and that's why our stress is really on the acting. We want to make sure that when you look at those characters, like their eyes, or they're searching for the words the same way the voice actor was searching for the words when they were improvising it on the spot.
And we are watching the fine cut of episode 101 of Gary. What do you think, Lee?
I mean, I love this first episode. It was a lot of work, but I think it was worth it.
It was painful, and we only have 15 episodes to go. I think the biggest challenge with this episode was everything.
But look what we got out of it. You got that little, I love that acting moment of Gary kind of crinkling his forehead.
Yeah, no, and the art direction is really well done, the writing sharp, and I think everybody's that much more nitpicky with a pilot. Once you start going through the process, the train sort of starts to leave the station. Everything starts to roll a little bit more smoothly. This is my optimistic side talking.
Well, it's fun that we have that established, but at the same time, our scripts take us to different places. Like, even in episode 2, it's a little bit more horror-based, right? So they get to have more fun with the music. They get to do different stuff with the visuals. It's all a bit of a different place than we are in episode 1.
I think the most fascinating thing is to see how a script changes when it goes into the booth, and it goes into anime. It's just going through the whole process, everything just starts to feel better. So, Andy, can we bring down the music? We're not really hearing the line on the I need my medicine. For sure. Okay, perfect. We do both of our voiceover record and our mix through Eggplant. Eggplant also does our music. We've used them as our one-stop shop. It's great because there's some cohesiveness there. There's a process in place that they know how they handle their audio rather than it going piecemeal to different places. So we've taken some solace in the fact that that process has been so easy and streamlined for us just because it's coming from the same infrastructure. The mix part of the process is really where all the audio is put together and assembled in a way that you can make sure that the dialogue, the sound effects, and the music are all in balance with each other in a way that you don't want the dialogue overriding the music to the point you can't hear the sound effects. It's the balancing process of the audio component of the production.
People ask, how do you make a hit? And I think it's impossible to go into a creative endeavor with the mindset to make a hit. We don't know what is going to make a hit, and no one does. I think that that's the wrong question. What we've got to do is make stuff that we think is good and hope that it catches on with the general public and that there are people that are like-minded with us, that agree with us, and enjoy shows like Gary, which has a very, very unique look and a very unique tone and a very unique point of view, which is ultimately the most important thing, is that we're getting the point of view from the creator. And that unfiltered view, that authenticity, is what people really want to see. They want to connect with the shows they're watching.
I mean, this is something that gets said too much in Canada, but it's crazy how many very funny people there are, and and then how few opportunities there are. And it's not crazy, it's the reality of living in a country with a small population where no one can afford to make as many shows, a fraction of as many shows as they do in the States. You can't have networks geared towards hyper niche audiences in Canada because Canada as a population would be a niche audience in the States.
It's going to be really interesting to see where this goes. I mean, you can't base a total opinion off of one episode, but based on what I have seen, there is potential for it to be a hit because of the voice acting and the animation and the story points and the way it keeps going. You know, I watched a 12-minute episode, but it felt like a half hour. And I know that if you're able to pack that much stuff into a show, it's gonna be really, really good, or has the potential to be really good. And I haven't seen an animated series for adults from Canada that has ever been this good before.
These days with animation, it's super difficult to have a hit show on, I think, the level of hit show that we tend to think of. There's so much television to watch these days, there's so many animated shows being made. Not all of them are going to make it, but I do think that there are more niche places for these shows to go. So a show like us that's quite different, that has traditional animation, that has a bunch of improvisation, that has different styles of jokes and like a very unique brand of comedy because of Mark Little. A show can be very successful on its own merits in a bit of a smaller crowd.
I have pretty humble hopes, to be honest. I want people to see it and I want people to like it. And when I say people, I mean, I don't have any illusions that this is for everyone. I don't think it is. Like, it would be amazing if I found out that like everyone liked this show. But I truly do not have illusions about that happening. But I do think it's just so hard for a show to find what you might call its audience. My dream for this show is just that the type of people who would like this show can find this show. You know, the term cult following gets thrown around, and sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative, but I think it just means that like the people who were destined to be fans of that thing happen to find it. And that's what I want.
Yeah, fuck it. I didn't like this. Goodbye.